Hello, everyone, and welcome to Swiping Right, Living in the Tinder Sampling Ecosystem, an InnovateMR webinar in coordination with the Insights Association. My name is Molly Strawn, Manager of Marketing and Brand Strategy here at InnovateMR. InnovateMR is a fiercely independent sampling and res tech company that delivers faster answers from businesses and consumer audiences utilizing technology to support agile research. As industry pioneers, InnovateMR connects organizations with targeted audiences around the world and develops forward-thinking products to support informed, data-driven strategies and identify growth opportunities. I am thrilled to introduce the amazing Sandy Casey, who will be taking you through this webinar. Sandy has been in the industry for over 20 years, specializing in res tech product innovation, automation, DIY platforms, supply creations, operations, panel development, and management. Through the years, Sandy has built supply platforms, improved supply management, led supply technology frameworks, and developed operational sampling best practices. She has an expertise in B2B research and hard-to-reach audiences. As Senior Vice President of Global Supply here at InnovateMR, Sandy excels at building strong relationships internally and externally with an entrepreneurial spirit driven by innovation, automation, and systematic efficiencies. And she will be telling you more about her experiences as well. Now, take it away, Sandy.
Hi there, I am Sandy Casey, and I have been in the research industry for a little over 20 years. In those 20 years, I have been a supply executive through my entire career at companies such as Greenfield, Toluna, Cint, and now my personal favorite, InnovateMR. My background has been in everything supply: panels, procurement, API, and supply operations, basically just getting the work done. In my time as a research professional, I have built hundreds of panels. I have spent hundreds of millions of dollars. I have helped nearly 1 billion survey completes get done, driving insights into Fortune 500 companies and other companies all around the world. Now, please know, as I present this presentation, I'm taking an interesting spin on what I think is happening today with our participants and the challenges we have getting them to respond or stay engaged in a panel or stay engaged in a survey. Let me say this: in the old days, this was much easier for many reasons. So today's agenda, we're going to discuss how I actually compare the market research industry to Tinder. Yes, Tinder. How we researchers and suppliers are either trying to find the right person to take the survey or the right supplier to get the work done. We're going to talk about the history of sampling. We're going to have a Tinder user giving us an example of how Tinder works, the panelist experience and their sentiment, the panelist relationship and the commitment of a panelist. We're going to review how can we improve our relationships. We'll do a little bit of an overview of suppliers and their wants and needs. And we're going to go through how we're going to get you what you want and what you need. And if we have some time, we'll do a little bit of a Q&A. When we look at the history of the supply ecosystem, you know, in the 20s to the 40s, there were people doing interviews on the streets, getting ad testing done. The 40s to the 60s, in-depth interviews, focus groups. The 60s to the 80s, phones. People were on the phones. Remember the days when people actually answered the phone? In the 90s, computers and the internet started helping getting surveys done. Around 2010, I'd say we saw mobile becoming more active in the survey respondent pool. It was either people checking emails on their phone, or maybe they downloaded an app focused on surveys. 2012, 2015, we started to see marketplaces become more popular. But what's really interesting is that's when panel dashboards really started to become a thing. 2022, hundreds of programmatic suppliers are feeding thousands upon thousands of surveys at any given time. We have more suppliers in our ecosystem of market research than we have ever had. So I wanted to use this minute or so to give you an idea of what Tinder is and how people use Tinder, so you can start to understand why, in my mind, I use this as an analogy as to what's happening in the market research space. This is my colleague, Jeremy, and he's going to give you a few details about behind his experience with Tinder.
Thanks, Sandy. My name is Jeremy Carreño. I'm manager of Insight Solutions here at InnovateMR, and I guess I'm the resident Tinder expert. So a few years ago, more than a few, I was on Tinder, right? I was looking for a date, looking for a relationship. And for those that aren't familiar with Tinder, Tinder is one of those many online dating apps, right, that you use to find a date. You fill out a little profile, give a little bio of yourself, you upload pictures, give your age and what city you're in. And then before you know it, you're off to the races and you're swiping right or left, depending on who and who you don't like. Swiping right entails you like the person, swiping left entails you don't like the person. You see their profile, you move on to the next. The thing with Tinder though is you have so many options. You have an abundance of options of people that you match with and people that you don't match with. And it's so easy. It's so easy to get caught up in the swiping game, right? This downward spiral of just constantly swiping right because there's so many options. And for you, it's easy to move on to the next option because it's such low commitment. And I think I suffered that because I would show up at the dates and order a drink, and before you know it, get ghosted because commitment level is so low where that person that I matched with just went on and had another date with someone else, I would imagine. So yeah, it's super low commitment to the point where you never had those dates. You would show up and get ghosted. So again, so many options, easy for folks to lose track of them. And then before you know it, you're caught in this game of just not being able to find that date, to find that romantic partner that you're always looking for. So yeah, I can see the correlations. They're as clear as day now. And I think until now, I wasn't really drawing those parallels, but it's pretty evident. It's really evident, Sandy.
Okay, so Tinder, how does it compare to supply? How does it compare in the market research space? Now, remember I talked about that panel dashboard. That panel dashboard is an area of options. Tinder is a place where people are looking for options. Panel dashboard is a place where panelists are looking for options. In the old days, remember I said I've been in this business for a long time. We used to have a one-to-one relationship with our community members. We'd send them an email and they actually would open it maybe 20, 30% of the time. And today that's not really the case. Companies are far more reliant on their dashboards to get their completes. Today, we see probably about 80% of the participants in market research are coming from a dashboard. And in that dashboard, there can be anywhere from 10 to 30 survey options for them. Now, remember, it doesn't mean they can start all those surveys. They just know that they have options. And when people have that many options, it diminishes the attention and commitment. With so many choices on survey opportunities, I have to ask, do you think a panelist is going to stay in a boring, long, wordy survey? No, they're going to swipe. They're going to go back and look for something better. Why? Because they know there are a lot of other options out there for them. And that's the reality. So that being said, as we headed into doing this particular talk for you to understand what's happening in the supply ecosystem, we ran a survey in front of about 500 of our panelists. And we just gave them an open end. What do they think about the market research experience? And you can see there's a lot of negative words in there. There's some positive, but a lot of the words that popped out to us were words like long, boring, frustrating. Those aren't great words. But we did see people talking about rewards, gift cards, opinion, influence, which is great. So it doesn't mean that the world of supply is going away. It just means we have to get better at managing the relationship with those people that are taking the surveys. Now, panelist attention, right? Why would a panelist swipe, go back. I would say it's not just because of surveys. Our world has changed. The competition for participants' attention is unbelievably extreme. There is so much noise in people's world today. You got to realize that they're constantly being interrupted all day, every day. Now, we might look at the research community and know that there's a dashboard of 20 to 30 surveys in their world, in their platform. But I'm going to step outside panel for a minute and talk about the noise that's happening to our people that we want to participate in surveys. We are competing for their attention in apps and platforms all day, every day. Simply said, people are busier today with more interruptions, text messages, Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, maybe even a Tinder date notification. While I was preparing this talk, for lack of a better term, I found some really interesting stats around the competition for our panelists' attention. And I wanted to share it with you so you can understand what they're doing. The average person today has 8.4 social media apps on their phone. They spend 2.2 hours, 2 hours and 24 minutes on social media apps a day. Now, next interesting fact, the average person has 40 apps on their phone, 40 apps. They use their apps 4.2 hours a day. So let's take that last analogy, right? A person works 8 hours a day. They're 4.2 hours in an app. Now what are they doing? They're gone 12.2 hours a day. That's half the day that we can't reach a respondent. With all of these things that they have to do, what has happened over the years is that their attention span has completely diminished. Wise Owl came out with a study that noted that the average person's attention span has gone from 12 seconds to 8.5 seconds. Now, for an interesting point of reference, a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. The average person has less attention span than a goldfish. So what that means is we have to make sure we have our respondents engaged in the survey as well as a panel. So what else has changed in the land of panels and people? You know, in the old days, again, we used to have a one-to-one relationship with our panelists. We could send them an email and they would respond. But that's a thing of the past. The reason is we can't easily reach the respondent. According to CNBC, personal email is dead. And for those people who do check their personal email, 14.5 billion spam emails are sent a day. Yes, billion spam emails a day. The competition is so fierce to get into someone's email box, it's hard to get through and break through and get their attention. Again, if you can get their attention, remember, you have to work really hard to keep it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. For those participants who actually maybe they check their work email, well, most professionals' average email is 100 emails a day. Now, I don't know what someone does to get just 100 emails a day. That's like my mailbox by 5 a.m. But this is the noted average. The landline is disappearing. The telecom industry expects that by 2027, the US landline telephone line network will no longer exist. People are using other channels for communication: Slack, text, WhatsApp, social media. But again, these are really, really noisy channels with constant notifications coming up and interrupting that one-to-one relationship communication channel that we want to have. So now the big question is, how do we get them to come to us? We have to be attractive enough for them to come back again and again. There is nothing in my mind, nothing more important than to get the survey design improved, to get the length of interview shortened, and to increase the reward. We have to respect the respondent in their time now so that we can get the surveys done. So How are we going to get back to a committed relationship with our participants? We can't just have an attractive site. Looks aren't everything. We can't just profile them on key demographic and firmographic information. It's great to know them, but we have to use the information of what we know about them wisely. And the most important thing that we have to do now is really, really simple. It has to be simple. It is imperative that we make the survey simple and easy to complete. For the people that are managing panel companies, help yourself by finding ways to get your people to complete the surveys in front of them. Help your clients kind of understand this. Help them understand in the data that you have about your panel, what is it that they're completing? What is the common metric? And you might ask yourself, how do I make it simple and easy? It goes against everything I believe in to get the data I need. Well, here's some more interesting statistics that are a little bit concerning. According to Wise Owl, the average web page visit lasts less than a minute, and most people leave a web page in less than 20 seconds. If your survey is considered a web page, they're swiping in less than 20 seconds. But even more than that, the scariest metric that I found was that the average person only reads 20% of the content on a web page. That means 80% of the content is not being read. It's incredibly important that we start to follow what is known as the KISS method in our survey design. Bottom line, our surveys have to be attractive, not verbose, easy to read, questions and responses. And we have to pay them well to get them to show up and stay engaged in the survey, all the while making sure we're providing our clients the best quality that we can for their business insights. Now, back to history. Again, I've been in this business a long time. When I started in the supply world over 20 years ago, our consumer incentives started at $5. The B2B incentive started at 20. Again, started. We have driven down our cost per interview so much, we are actually charging less than what we used to offer the respondent. Just think about that. Imagine what the long-standing panelist feels like. Like I liken it to dating someone, meeting someone new. They were wooing me. They took me to Morton's early in the relationship. Now we're together for a couple of years and they're taking me 7-Eleven for a hot dog. You have to work at the relationship long-term. Be kind to your spouse. Let them know you appreciate them, and then maybe you'll get engaged. But once you have them, you can't take advantage. Know what they like, know what they don't like, know their tolerances. It's time for us to make our experiences with our participants very personalized. Think about what Amazon does with our products when we go to Amazon, or think about what Netflix does with the movies that they show to us. We have to get really, really personal in our storefronts. And how do we do that? We have to build a dashboard with the types of surveys they want. If I was ever on Tinder, which I never intend to be, and Tinder put before me men over 80 as an option, that's not interesting to me on any level. Let the users tell you what they want through profiling or opt-ins. And don't forget, we're in data, right? We're all in data. Use the data on your panelists. What are they responding to? And continue to feed them those types of surveys. Find the common metric. Stop using too many words. Stop using too many words in your questions and your answers. The people of today have learned to read emojis and acronyms. LOL, OMG. We need short questions, easy answers, otherwise drop-off rates could get out of control, but also people aren't going to come back if they don't have a good experience. There's going to be no second date. You can't blame the supplier if your work can't get done because your work is not fitting for the user of today. I liken it to blaming the matchmaker for a bad date when you showed up in a bathrobe and slippers. Take them on a good date. Respect them and reward them for their time. If you want respondents to make a really good effort in your surveys, just let them know you appreciate them. Seriously, if I dated someone and they took me to 7-Eleven for a hot dog, they would be kicked to the curb in a minute and I'd be taking myself to Morton's. Push for the higher interview fee, make the effort so that we can pass the benefit along to the members. Keep it short, especially early on in the relationship. You want to gain the trust of your participants. People now do coffee shop dates. They don't want to commit an hour. They don't even want to commit a night. Use that mentality in your survey design. You have their attention for a very short period of time. Remember, 8.5 seconds is their attention span, and they only read 20% of the content. So we have gone through panel relationships, right? Participant relationships, how to keep them engaged and try and minimize them from swiping. We have to now look at supplier relationships because I think those are fizzling a little bit too. Not everyone in our space has a panel like we do at Innovate. You know, we have a panel because we do a lot of hard work. Having a panel is the way that we get our hard work done, whether it's B2B or healthcare or even iHuts. But in the old days, right, almost everyone had panels. People were investing in their own panel and their own asset. But I think we're seeing more and more buyers actually going to the larger marketplaces to get their work done, especially for the easier type work, the simple consumer studies. No, I'm not saying everyone by any means, but I think we can all note that the marketplaces are becoming popular and they're growing, and I don't think they're going anywhere. So that being said, I wanted to just sort of shed some light for buyers who use the marketplace model on maybe how they can be successful in the marketplace. I might not touch on everything, but I might be able to provide some help and guidance for the buyers out there watching. Now, I was around when marketplaces started. I was at Cint around that time. And as I have said, they have grown substantially over the past few years. This, in my opinion, has truly led to the diminishing of the client to supplier relationship. As I've said, I have spent a long time in our industry cultivating relationships, enjoying the one-to-one buying relationship, picking up the phone, calling, hey, I need to get 1,000 of XYZ. Bryn, can you do me a solid? I swear I'll give you something back later. We can't do that anymore because the supply ecosystem has really changed to a programmatic platform-based model, meaning I can't schmooze an algorithm in an emergency. Now, you can just load in your target specs and the supplier ecosystem starts to send their users in. You must do your absolute best to try and match the algorithm that gets the participants to start coming in and keep coming in. Remember, it's systems making programmatic decisions. This is how some suppliers work today. Suppliers can program to an API of a client. This allows them to see any and all work from that particular client at any given time. And it kind of goes like this. The supplier will call into the client system and say, hey, do you have any surveys I can make money on right now? The client will send an automatic notification back. Well, actually, yes, I do. Here are hundreds, if not thousands of jobs you can make money on right now. I need this many men. I need this many women. I need moms. I need kids. And the key metric that the supplier is going to use and decide upon is based on an algorithm. Do they have the people, or does the metric of the study match what they want from a business perspective? The things they look at to decide if they want to flow that traffic in: incidence rate, length of interview, conversions. Conversions are key. Targets they may or may not match, and payouts. Most of the clients pay on a model, like you might be very familiar, on a cost per complete model. The reality is the supplier ecosystem works on a model known as EPC, an earnings per click. How many clicks does it take for me to make money? And how much money am I going to make on every single click? Every time a user from a supplier clicks on a survey and doesn't complete, that supplier has lost an opportunity to make money at that given moment on an active user looking to take a survey at that very moment. This matters, and it matters a lot. Always remember, how many people can convert to a completed survey is really the key metric for getting people to your survey. But it's not just that. There's a combination effect that has to occur. You've got your conversion plus EPC. If you convert a lot of people and you pay a lot on the click, you will get the traffic. And it makes sense. It's simply the supplier knowing that they can earn money, again, on that user at that specific time. But although it makes sense, and I understand it, I do think that this has been the biggest change and the biggest challenge in driving supply to some studies. This is where the Tinder analogy comes in from the supplier perspective. Supplier A will send 50 people to a survey. If out of those 50 people that went in and clicked don't complete, they stop sending. They swipe left and go to the next study. Because don't forget, in that API call, they've seen thousands of other opportunities they can send that person to. If they're not making money and they can't get an earning per click on 50 users, they won't continue to send. The model is good, and I'd say the model is bad. It's good that it makes sense. It's a wise business model for the people that are supplying these ecosystems. It's bad in that getting the attention of the algorithm is where some of the efforts may not be being made. And that's what I hope I can help you understand a little bit more. I'm going to say it again. Do we have a supply versus demand issue? Or do we have an issue where the supply ecosystem has just gotten a lot smarter? As I noted earlier in the chat, we have a panel, but I wanted to really dig deep into what I've seen, some of the marketplace data that I have seen out there in my career and whatnot. And I hope that some of the people that are out there attending this seminar can walk away with something to help them make decisions on how to get their traffic flowing. Or in the least, know when it's not working out and maybe what they could do to fix it or come up with another solution to getting their studies done. We looked at testing some of the data from Carmen marketplaces and our panel in an attempt to identify what is the right mix of survey metrics to clear the runway for surveys to get the traffic. We found some interesting data points around this. And when I talk about clicks, remember, I think clicks are incredibly important because it's really feeding the funnel. It's the top of the funnel feed. If you can't get a click into a survey, you're never going to get it complete. The more clicks you get, the more likely you'll get the completes. So the things that matter: click conversion, completely reliant upon IR in targeting. Earnings per click, which is tied to payout and click conversion. Total payout. What you pay impacts the EPC, earning per click. LOI. Doesn't matter how long you want to talk to your participants. So, first and foremost, this slide, fascinating. This was such a fun exercise for me to go through. This slide here really highlights for me conversion matters. 16% conversion, driving a 20-cent EPC, getting 113,000 clicks. Now, 10% conversion, it's not even half, but you'll get half the clicks on this much lower of a conversion rate. Even though you're paying more, your EPC has dropped. So, what surveys do suppliers want? What's the perfect date? I said it earlier. It's the perfect match. It's the conversion plus the EPC. No matter what you have as a payout, if it doesn't convert, they're not going to flirt. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Now, next slide. Again, paying more is not always going to get you the complete. It's not going to get you the click. So I threw in another metric here where you see an EPC in the middle go from 15 cents to the end of 14 cents. 8 percentage point drop in the conversion diminishes the actual clicks substantially from 63,000 down to 19,000. And even though there was a payout of $6, it didn't drive the traffic, because at the end of the day, the EPC plus the conversion is where you're going to win on the traffic. There's so many ways you can increase your conversion on targeting, on understanding your user, keeping it short, and keeping it easy. Now, I just mentioned short. Does length of interview matter? Yes, 100%. What other surveys do suppliers want? They don't want you to spend a lot of time with their users. We built out a few surveys of various lengths of interviews to test if the LOI actually mattered. And what we found was that there is an absolute direct correlation of LOI to the number of clicks you will attract. You will get 26 times more clicks if your length of interview is less than 10 minutes in comparison to a length of interview of 15 to 20 minutes. Think about that. 26 times more clicks. You will get 18 times more clicks if your LOI is 11 to 15 minutes in comparison to an LOI of 16 to 20 minutes. Reasons you will attract more respondents if you keep the survey short. Remember, the dashboards are good to their respondents. They give them transparency into the experience they will be getting. The LOI and the reward for trying is always noted in the dashboard. People gravitate to the shorter. Why? Because their attention span is shorter, 8.5 seconds. So, do we have a supply versus demand issue? I don't think we do. The attention of the participant has diminished, and we need to do more to keep it. We need surveys to be fast and easy. Easy isn't always determined by the target you're trying to reach. The user experience matters. Understand the participant pool doesn't digest all of your content. You have to make the content easy to digest. Always keep in mind, 20% of a web page content is digested. Keep it short. It'll impact your traffic by 26x. Pay the right price. Get a good EPC. If you can keep it short, driving up the conversion, and have the right fee there for the people on the supplier side, you're going to get traffic. But I know probably more than anyone that surveys aren't that easy. So what are you going to do when a survey's high maintenance? It's unrealistic to get a high click conversion all the time. I know it. I do it every day. But what I suggest you do when you do have something that's challenging and difficult are these key things. Find a company that will hold your hand. Do it together model. If you can have someone hold your hand doing it together, you're going to get yourself to the end of the line. Panel companies out there, make the efforts to profile in advance of a study so that the panel and potential qualifiers are identified, minimizing the burn. And the burn happens when you term them out. Simply said, know them and respect them and give them what they want and what they can qualify for. Work with someone who understands your targeting from the client side. Communicate with your vendors, and vendors, you have to communicate with your clients. If you're having a struggle, have open, honest communication. Don't swipe too easily on your vendor. It's really not easy keeping people engaged on the hard surveys. Be patient. Remember, always remember, 20% of the web page is read, 80% is not. Keep it simple. Keep the interview length short. Be kind. Always be kind. Respect people's time. It's a relationship with the participant. Keep them engaged. Maybe you'll get to the altar.
Thank you so much for taking us through all of that. It's super interesting because as someone who spent like a very brief stint on Tinder, I probably should have better compared that to my actual day job. It makes a ton of sense. So we have a couple of questions here that came in from the Q&A, and I'd love to get your take on them. The first one is asking about gamification. So, you know, a lot of the appeal of Tinder is that it comes with like a game-like experience of swiping and matching and talking to somebody. So how does gamification kind of sit in the survey space?
Sure. I think when I talk about panelist engagement and, at least sort of respecting the participants' time, the gamification that we have put out there is gamification focused on, even if someone has come in and spent time with us, we can give them a reward to go play a game on our side. The game will lead to other rewards, but at least we know we're giving them something. The other thing that has turned out great, when I talk to panel companies about, know your user, profile your user, so you can get a survey to them that might match them. We've been able to use gamification to improve our panelist data points by hundreds of thousands. So using the gamification just to get them to do something else, to react quickly, to help you in the long term, has really, really proven to be really effective for us.
Fabulous. Okay, so that's awesome. I know that we've completely done some new work on the Point Club panel, so that's fantastic. So we talk a lot about quality in the space. Quality is very important, and obviously the same way that you have to have a good quality date, not go to 7-Eleven. We need that kind of data and we need that engagement from panelists. So could you provide, this is the question, could you provide a specific example of some of the InnovateMR quality measures?
We do a lot of just the standard checks that everyone does, but we go further. We have red herrings before every single survey. Sometimes we put 3 red herrings before the survey that is very topical to the survey content. We use our text analyzer tool, right? Our text analyzer tool that won the Stevie Award last year, that checks off an open-ended question if the person's actually answering what they should be answering along the topic. We do CAPTCHA, we do digital fingerprinting, we do all of the normative, but the one thing that we're doing that I'm really, really excited about is we've stopped offering digital currency for first-time redemptions for panelists in the US. And the reason that matters is because we're giving people checks. Checks, in my opinion, are the moat of keeping out the bad respondents from coming in from other countries. Because the reason people from other countries have been able to and desired to come into our surveys is because online currency made it very easy for them to get paid out and rewarded, either through PayPal or gift cards in their market. So by us providing our respondents checks, we're not that attractive to the cheater. We will send the check to a house, not a PO box. We check and make sure that name is at the right address. So these are the things that we're doing to not just stay technologically advanced with our quality, but doing something so old school and basic. What's old is new again is what we're doing. And this is really proving to be, one, great for quality, but we found that our respondents were really thrilled to get checks. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for taking us through that. That's all super fantastic and super needed in the industry nowadays. We only have time for one more question, but if we didn't answer your question today, we're going to be following up with you on email, so be sure to continue asking away. But I wanted to ask this one last question. These kinds of things in building participant engagement is a really long-standing, ongoing process. But how can firms start today to reorganize their panel dashboards to get that greater participant loyalty?
That is an excellent question. I think the key really falls under profiling your user and having the data tied to the user, tied to the dashboard. So if that person qualifies for a survey, say likely at 100%, you're looking for moms of babies 0 to 36 months, and the woman coming into your dashboard is a mom of a baby 0 to 36 months, get that survey to the top of her dashboard, because you want to make sure you give as many qualifying surveys in front of your respondents so that they have a good experience completing surveys. Completing surveys is key to panelist engagement. And the more you can do in profiling to target them that much better and put them up the list, the better off you will be.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this has been beneficial for refining your participant engagement strategy and creating your new surveys. And thank you so much, Sandy, for leading us through this really unique comparison of industries. If you would like to learn more about InnovateMR, you can visit us on social media or see our website at innovatemr.com. You can also reach out directly to our team at info@innovatemr.com. Thank you so much again for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.